Today we will look at a person who is considered one of the most important and outstanding presidents of the United States. Of course, we are talking about 16th President of USA, Abraham Lincoln. In pop culture, identified and perceived very positively and uncritically. There is no doubt about the fact that he was an important president, due to the election period that took place during the Civil War. However, did he really become a particularly eminent commander? He was raised in the state of Kentucky, and therefore in a slave state. He took reluctance against slavery from his father, who opposed it on religious grounds. He moved soon to free Illinois. Having no education, he became a lawyer and joined the Whig Party, advocating among others for state investments, especially for the expansion of the railway. His wife's family had slaves, while her brothers fought on the Confederate side. From the perspective of ours and of his times, such sort of people were described as racists. He liked racist jokes and caricatures of black theatrical performances, blackfaces. He was also against the extension of citizenship rights to black residents of the state, arguing that there are differences between the two races that would probably forever prevent them living together in conditions of full equality. Although he considered slavery incompatible with the noble ideas of the founding fathers, he wanted to fight it in a moderate, preferably polite persuasion. The solution was seen in so-called colonization, that is, the federal government financed the voluntary immigration of black people to Africa or Central America. We can certainly ascertain that Lincoln was not a staunch abolitionist, but he strongly opposed his expansion to new lands. The fight was also for political influence. If slavery reigned in the new lands, they would find themselves under the influence of the Democratic Party, then a conservative party defending slavery, and strengthen the influence of slavery in the federal authorities, and so disproportionately in relation to the large number of the population inhabiting the South. Less attention was paid to the moral dimension of slavery. He compared slavery to cancer or growths that cannot be immediately cut so as not to bleed to death. However, he maintained that the federal government had no constitutional right to abolish it in those states in which it already existed, and hoped that this institution would die a natural death over time, if it were limited to the South. He strongly opposed the expansion of slavery to new lands, which became particularly relevant when, in 1848, the United States conquered vast territories west of the Mississippi River as a result of the war with Mexico. The Republican Party, established 6 years before a war, represented the interests of industrialists who wanted the newly built railway lines to connect them with farmers in the interior, not with cotton plantations, because they had something to trade with farmers, with planters not. They were not interested in slavery in the South, but only that they would not appear in new territories such as Kansas, Nebraska, or Colorado. In 1863, Lincoln established a decree that would free slaves if they fought on the north side. Seward criticized such a move, accusing Lincoln of abolishing slavery in areas where his power did not reach, while maintaining the status quo in the Union. About 180,000 African Americans, due to such moves, joined the Army of the North and contributed significantly to victories over the Confederation. After the war ended, April 11, 1865, Lincoln said that African Americans deserve not only freedom but also limited civil rights.
I would not leave any doubts anymore. My most important goal in this fight is to maintain the unity of the Union, not to preserve or eliminate slavery. If I could maintain the unity of the Union without freeing any slaves, I would do so. If I could hold her freeing all slaves, I would do so without hesitation. If I could do it by freeing some of them and leaving other captives, that's what I would do. Everything I do about slavery and the colorful people, I do to preserve the Union. And if I give up something, I do it because I do not believe it will help to preserve the Union. I have laid out my purpose here according to how I perceive my official duties, and I do not intend to bend them to my personal, often expressed wish that all people and everywhere be free. Admittedly, General Sherman, while marching through Confederate territory, incited slaves to revolt, promising them 40 acres and a mule, but it was a false promise. African Americans still remember this, as evidenced by the name of Spike Lee's film company, 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks. Another argument for the beginning of the American Civil War was a great desire to tighten its grip on states, as well as fear of an excessive increase in the power of the Confederate States. The southern states had fear-reaching aspirations such as the Golden Circle. It was an idea promoted by the Knights of the Golden Circle. It envisioned the annexation of several areas: Mexico, which was to be divided into 25 new slave states, Central America, northern parts of South America, Cuba, and the rest of the Caribbean into the United States, in order to vastly increase the number of slave states and thus the power of the slave-holding southern upper classes.
By 1875, the administration actually managed to liberate, in one way or another ensure economic independence, only 5% black population in the South. Others worked on the same plantations as before, whipped with the same whips as before. Black was forbidden to possess weapons, so that they could not defend themselves against the Ku Klux Klan, tolerated by the authorities. Real liberation came only 100 years later. The war also destroyed politics. Even under Lincoln, oligarchs began to play a disproportionately large role, from railway companies in whose interest the war was launched. Acts from 1862 to 64 were prepared especially for them, providing for the grant of land and financing the construction of transcontinental lines from government bonds.